portal tore open above Metropolis, not with a whisper, but with the shriek of twisting reality. For a fleeting instant, the sky fractured into a kaleidoscope of emerald green and cosmic dust, then vomited a figure onto the pavement below. He landed with a thud that echoed the silent scream of the city. A man in tattered green and gold, his horned helmet askew, his face a mask of bewildered fury. This was not a hero's entrance. It was a cosmic accident, a god-turned projectile. Far below, in the shadowed depths of the Batcave, the emergency sirens blared, their red light bathing the screens in an urgent, pulsing glow. Bruce Wayne, still in his work clothes, was already at the console, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. His heart hammered a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Another anomaly, another tear. The multi-crisis event had left scars across the fabric of existence, and now something new, something alien, had punched through. "Alfred, status report," Bruce commanded, his voice a low growl, devoid of panic, but laced with the razor-sharp edge of immediate action. On the main monitor, a blurry, high-resolution satellite image materialized. A cratered street, smoke curling upwards, and the distinctive, almost mocking silhouette of a figure slowly rising from the debris. The horns were unmistakable. Alfred's calm, measured tones were a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding. An energy signature unlike anything we've catalogued, Master Bruce. Simultaneous with a localized spatial distortion event in downtown Metropolis. Preliminary analysis indicates residual magic, but of a vastly different wavelength than usual, and a significant amount of residual gamma radiation. Curiously, Bruce zoomed in on the figure. He saw the intricate gold filigree, the shimmering green cloak, the unsettlingly pale skin. Loki. The name, whispered through cosmic legends and superhero gossip, resonated with a chilling familiarity. This was not a mere meta-human. This was something else entirely. Gamma radiation? Bruce muttered, a frown deepening on his face. Unlikely coincidence. Contact Superman. He needs to be informed immediately and activate the Watchtower's long-range magical anomaly detectors. We need to know if this is an isolated incident or the first tremor of something larger. A few blocks from the portal's impact site, Commissioner Gordon squinted through binoculars from his patrol car, parked discreetly behind a delivery truck. The smoke was clearing, revealing the source of the sudden, devastating crater. His radio crackled with frantic reports of structural damage, civilian injuries, and a growing panic. "What in God's name is that thing?" he mumbled, lowering the binoculars. His officers were holding a perimeter, but their faces were etched with a fear that went beyond a normal perp. This was not a bank robbery. This was an invasion. He had seen enough alien threats to recognize the chilling signature of the impossible. The figure, Loki, stood tall amidst the ruin, his posture that of a king surveying a newly conquered, if slightly disappointing, realm. He swept his gaze across the gaping maw of the street, the twisted metal of what were once vehicles, the distant wail of sirens. A sneer touched his lips. "Midgard again?" he scoffed, his voice echoing with an otherworldly resonance, a theatrical disdain. "And it appears the Bifrost is even less precise than usual. This is hardly the grandeur I expected for my grand return." He brushed dust from his green tunic, his movements fluid, almost graceful, even in the midst of chaos. He extended a hand, and a spectral green energy pulsed from his palm, repairing a crack in his helmet with an almost casual flick of his wrist. "All units, hold your positions," Gordon barked into his comms, his voice cutting through the rising tension. "Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage until we have more information. This is not a standard threat." He knew the moment he saw the emerald energy. Magic. And not the kind Zatanna could just wave away. This felt ancient, dangerous. He thought of Batman, of Superman, of Wonder Woman. They needed to be here. And they needed to be here now. Loki's eyes, bright green and sharp as emerald shards, scanned the skyline. No rainbow bridge, no familiar spire of Asgard, and definitely no thunderous, self-righteous brother to immediately ruin his day. This place felt different, cleaner somehow, too ordered. He noted the giant S emblazoned on a distant tower, a crude, garish symbol. He saw the panic in the eyes of the mortals below, their primitive vehicles ablaze, their screams a symphony of delightful terror. It was all so familiar, yet utterly alien. His gaze settled on the distant shimmering in the sky, a faint, almost imperceptible distortion of light. He sensed powerful energies converging, Ah, he purred, a predatory glint in his eye. It seems my arrival has not gone unnoticed. Good. Let them come. Let them see the true power of a god. He relished the anticipation, the promise of conflict. His long exile had left him hungry for a stage, for an audience, for a glorious, bloody spectacle. He needed to reassert his dominance, to remind himself and the universe of who he truly was. This was not a mistake. It was an opportunity. In the Batcave, Bruce continued to monitor the situation. Superman has been notified, Master Bruce. He's en route. Wonder Woman is already airborne, responding to the energy signature, and Flash is attempting to establish a rapid evacuation corridor around the impact zone. Alfred's report was comprehensive, but the underlying tension in his voice was palpable. Good, Bruce responded, his eyes never leaving the screen. The image of Loki standing amidst the destruction sent a chill down his spine. This was a Class A threat, potentially an extinction-level event if mishandled. He remembered the last time an alien entity of this magnitude arrived unchecked. It had nearly cost them everything. Alfred, prepare the javelin. I'm going in. A slight pause, then Alfred's response. Very well, Master Bruce, but please exercise extreme caution. This entity, it feels different. Bruce nodded, though Alfred couldn't see it. He already knew. This wasn't just a physical threat, it was a psychological one, a trickster god. And tricksters were always the most dangerous, for they didn't fight with brute force alone, but with lies, deception, and the unraveling of all certainty. He strapped into the javelin, the cockpit closing around him with a soft hiss. The thrusters ignited, propelling him upwards, a dark shadow against the rising sun, towards the emerald chaos that had just arrived in their world. Loki watched the first figures approach, a blur of red and blue streaking across the sky, followed by a warrior clad in red, gold, and blue, her lasso already gleaming in her hand, and then a darker bat-shaped shadow. He recognized the archetype immediately, the hero, the champion, the self-righteous fools who always sought to protect the weak. A familiar, satisfying surge of contempt filled him. This would be entertaining. He summoned a pair of spectral daggers, shimmering green light forming the blades in his hands. Come then, heroes, he called out, his voice carrying clearly even over the wailing sirens. Let us see if this realm's champions are any more entertaining than my last. The first to arrive was Superman, a red and blue comet of righteous fury. He landed gently, hovering just above the ground, his eyes burning with an icy blue light. The devastation around Loki was unacceptable. Stand down, Superman's voice boomed, powerful and clear, resonating with an authority that usually quelled any threat. Who are you and what have you done? Loki merely arched an eyebrow, a sardonic smile playing on his lips. Who am I? My dear blue-clad paragon, I am Loki of Asgard, god of mischief. And what have I done? Why, I merely arrived, and judging by the mess, I assume your infrastructure is lacking. He gestured around at the rubble, a dismissive flick of his wrist. Wonder Woman landed beside Superman, her shield raised, her sword half drawn. Her warrior's instincts screamed danger. This wasn't just a powerful being, it was an arrogant, malevolent force. You will answer for this destruction, Loki, she stated, her voice firm, unwavering. You will explain why you have invaded our world. Before Loki could retort, the bat javelin swooped down, landing with a soft thud a short distance away. Bruce Wayne, in full Batman regalia, emerged, his cape billowing around him. His tactical visor immediately began scanning Loki, analyzing energy signatures, detecting vulnerabilities. We've had our share of gods and monsters here, Batman said, his voice a low, gravelly rumble, utterly devoid of fear. You're not the first. You won't be the last, but you will be stopped. Loki chuckled, a dry, grating sound. He looked from the Kryptonian to the Amazon to the mortal in the bat suit. Ah, a triumvirate of righteousness. How quaint, and how predictable. Always the same play. The powerful protect the weak laud the powerful. A tiresome cycle, wouldn't you agree? He twirled one of his daggers, the green light dancing across its phantom blade. But I fear your play is about to take an unexpected turn. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet began to rumble. Not an earthquake, but something else. A high-pitched, almost psychic whine filled the air, growing in intensity. The air around Loki shimmered, not with his green magic, but with an unsettling purple-black distortion. His sardonic smile vanished, replaced by a look of genuine surprise, then a flash of genuine fear. What is this? He muttered, looking around wildly. Batman's cowl whirred. Energy reading spike! Off the charts! It's not him. It's something else entirely. Before any of them could react, the distortion around Loki solidified, coalescing into a shimmering, obsidian black portal. It wasn't like the emerald one he'd arrived through. This one felt colder, hungrier. From within its depths, a grotesque, multi-limbed creature, its body a mass of writhing tentacles and razor-sharp chitin, lunged forth, its glowing red eyes fixed on Loki. It was an interdimensional predator, drawn to the tear in reality, drawn to the powerful anomaly Loki represented. "Well, this is unexpected," Loki cried out, his voice losing its customary theatricality, replaced by a genuine note of alarm. He instinctively threw a dagger, which passed harmlessly through the creature's shimmering form. "It appears I have brought a guest." The creature snarled, a sound that grated on their very souls, and lashed out, a tentacle whipping towards Loki with impossible speed. Loki dodged, his agility surprising, but the force of the blow shattered the pavement where he'd stood a moment before. "Stand back," Superman roared, launching himself forward, a red and blue blur. He slammed into the creature with the force of a freight train, but the impact merely pushed it back a few feet, its form rippling, seemingly unharmed. Wonder Woman followed, her sword a silver streak. She cleaved into a tentacle, but the blade only sparked against its chitinous hide, leaving no mark. "It's impervious," she cried out, her eyes widening in disbelief. "And it's not from this dimension." Batman, ever pragmatic, had already launched a series of sonic emitters from his gauntlets, their high-frequency assault designed to disorient. The creature recoiled, letting out another piercing shriek, but it merely seemed annoyed, not harmed. "Its composition is fluctuating," Batman reported, his voice tight with urgency. "It's adapting." Loki, realizing he was facing a common enemy, grimaced. "Fine, an alliance of necessity then." He conjured a massive illusion, a towering, fiery dragon that lunged at the creature. The beast roared, its spectral form momentarily distracting the interdimensional horror, which flailed at it with its tentacles. "It reacts to illusions. It's not entirely incorporeal." "Good to know," Superman shouted, his laser vision burning brightly, targeting the creature's glowing red eyes. The creature shrieked, batting at the beams as if they were irritating gnats. Suddenly, a new, massive tear ripped open in the sky, wider and more jagged than the first. It wasn't the emerald hue of Loki's arrival, nor the obsidian of the monster. This one pulsed with an angry, chaotic energy, a swirling vortex of green and purple lightning. From within, a fleet of spacecraft, dark and angular, emerged, their hulls emblazoned with a sinister, glowing symbol, a single, malevolent eye. "More visitors," Loki muttered, his eyes narrowing, his previous fear giving way to a cold, analytical dread. "These are not mere beasts. These are an army." He recognized the symbol, etched into ancient texts he had once perused in forgotten libraries of Asgard. Darkside. The name, unsaid, hung heavy in the air, a chilling premonition of unimaginable war. The true threat had just arrived. Chapter 1. The Accidental Deitia. Chapter Hook. The air ripped, not with thunder, but with a sound like a cosmic sheet tearing, disgorging a figure onto the cracked asphalt of a nameless city street. His horned helmet glinted, a grotesque crown atop a face etched with cosmic bewilderment. B Core. Action Conflict. Loki's chaotic arrival in Metropolis. He surveys the unfamiliar damage he's caused, a sneer on his face, oblivious to the deeper significance of his unplanned landing. The Justice League, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, converge. On the scene, drawn by the impossible energy signature. Initial confrontation and assessment of Loki. Loki's casual disdain for Midgardian heroes and his theatrical pronouncements. Dialogue focus. Who am I? My dear blue-clad paragon, I am Loki, of Asgard, god of mischief. And what have I done? Why, I merely arrived. This concisely establishes Loki's identity, his arrogance, and the immediate conflict with the arriving heroes. D. Suspense tactic. The initial mystery of Loki's origin and purpose. His alien nature and casual power are immediately evident, setting him apart from typical threats. The League's rapid, tactical assessment provides internal communication and a ticking clock as they race to understand the unknown. E. Cliffhanger. Just as the League prepares to engage Loki, a new, far more grotesque interdimensional creature erupts from a secondary, ominous portal near Loki, revealing that Loki's arrival was merely the first ripple of a much larger, unknown disturbance, threatening to engulf them all. Chapter 2. Echoes of Dimensions. Chapter Hook. The ground groaned, not with an earthquake, but with the sickening pull of another dimension tearing open, spewing forth a nightmare of writhing chitin and glowing red eyes. An immediate, unreasoning predator. B. Core action conflict. The initial, desperate fight against the first interdimensional creature. The League and Loki are forced into a temporary, uneasy alliance as their individual attacks prove ineffective. They discover the creature's fluctuating composition and partial vulnerability to illusions. The immediate struggle for survival, showcasing their combined powers against an impossible foe. Loki's reluctant participation, driven by self-preservation, RC. Dialogue focus. It's impervious, and it's not from this dimension. Wonder Woman's cry of disbelief, highlighting the sheer impossibility of the threat and its alien nature, followed by Loki's begrudging, fine, an alliance of necessity then, signaling the fragile, tactical truce. D. Suspense tactic. Delayed revelation of the creature's true nature and weaknesses. The high-stakes choice of forming an alliance with Loki against the unknown. The rapid, escalating threat as the monster proves resistant to their most powerful attacks. Yi. Cliffhanger. Before the monster can be fully contained or defeated, a massive jagged tear in the sky rips open again, far larger than any before, spewing forth a fleet of dark, angular warships emblazoned with a malevolent eye symbol. Loki, his face pale, recognizes the symbol, Darkseid. Chapter 3. The Omega Arrivaler. Chapter Hook. The sky shattered, not with a simple tear, but with a violent, chaotic vortex of green and purple lightning, from which emerged a silent armada, their hulls scarred with a symbol of ultimate, inescapable dominion. B. Core action, conflict, the instantaneous shift from fighting one monster to facing an invasion fleet. The Justice League and Loki are overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the new threat. The Omega symbol on the ships is identified, sending a ripple of cold dread through Batman. Loki, recognizing the symbol of Darkseid, briefly explains the apocalyptic threat to the stunned heroes. The first wave of parademons descends, engaging the heroes and Loki in a brutal, desperate street battle. C. Dialogue focus. Loki's hushed explanation, Darkseid. He is not merely a conqueror, he is an ending, a cosmic certainty. This sets up the impossible factor and raises the stakes exponentially. D. Suspense tactic. The immediate introduction of an impossible factor. Darkseid's fleet. The delayed revelation of the full scope of apocalyptic power and the dread it instills. The overwhelming odds against the heroes. E. Cliffhanger. As the first wave of parademons surges, a giant boom tube opens directly above the crater, and from its depths a figure descends, radiating immense, palpable evil. It is Steppenwolf, axe in hand, a silent, chilling declaration of total war. Chapter 4. The Wrath of Steppenwolfer. Chapter Hook. The air crackled with a sound like tearing space-time, as a monstrous armored figure, axe in hand, descended from a crimson boom tube, its shadow swallowing the light and the last vestige of hope. B. Core. Action. Conflict. The arrival of Steppenwolf and his immediate, brutal engagement with the Justice League and Loki. Steppenwolf demonstrates his overwhelming power, easily deflecting their attacks and showcasing the true might of Apocalypse. The heroes, even with Loki's magic, are outmatched. Tactical retreat initiated by Batman, a desperate attempt to regroup and formulate a strategy against an enemy they cannot hope to defeat in open combat. Loki grudgingly aids in the retreat, understanding the futility of their current stand. Civilians are caught in the crossfire, escalating the desperation. C. Dialogue. Focus. Steppenwolf's chilling declaration. Your world will burn. Your gods will fall for Darkseid. This establishes the antagonist's motivation and the sheer scale of the threat. D. Suspense tactic. The impossible factor of Steppenwolf's raw power, forcing a desperate retreat. The ticking clock of civilian casualties and the encroaching apocalyptian forces. The internal communication as Batman tries to coordinate a retreat under fire. Cliffhanger. As they attempt to extract injured civilians, a massive orbital strike slams into a nearby building, collapsing it and cutting off their primary escape route. Steppenwolf's booming laughter echoes through the city as they are trapped, surrounded by parademons, with no clear way out. Chapter 5. Metropolis Fallinger. Chapter Hook. The ground bucked under the force of an orbital blast, a tower of steel and glass shrieking its death throes as it collapsed, severing their escape, sealing their fate. B. Core action, conflict, trapped. The League and Loki are forced into a brutal, close-quarters engagement with the parademons, while Steppenwolf relentlessly hunts them. The desperation reaches a fever pitch as they try to protect the civilians trapped with them. Loki, showing a surprising, if self-serving, resourcefulness, creates complex illusions and diversions, buying precious seconds. Batman and Superman formulate a desperate plan to create a temporary opening, while Wonder Woman defends their position with unwavering ferocity. The city is being systematically destroyed around them, illustrating the catastrophic scale of the invasion. C. Dialogue. Focus. We need an exit. Now people are still inside. Superman's desperate shout, highlighting the immediate high stakes and their desperate ally role protecting the innocent. D. Suspense tactic. The overwhelming odds and the immediate personal threat to civilians. The ticking clock of the collapsing city and the relentless pursuit by Steppenwolf. The high-stakes choice of sacrificing an escape route to protect others. E. Cliffhanger. Just as Batman and Superman manage to punch a hole through the parademon ranks, creating a path for escape, Steppenwolf appears directly in front of Loki, grabbing him by the throat and lifting him into the air, his axe poised to strike. You think you can hide, trickster god? Darkseid has plans for you. Chapter 6. The Trickster's Bargainer. Chapter Hook. The monstrous hand closed around Loki's throat, lifting him, his feet dangling uselessly above the collapsing street. The shadow of Steppenwolf's axe, a chilling promise of oblivion. B. Core action, conflict. Loki, held captive by Steppenwolf, uses his cunning and silver tongue. He bargains, offering Steppenwolf critical intelligence about Asgardian magic and cosmic artifacts, implying they could be used to further Darkseid's goals. He paints a picture of immense, untapped power beyond the anti-life equation, specifically hinting at sources of cosmic energy that could break dimensional barriers for Apocalypse to plunder. Steppenwolf, though wary, is intrigued by the prospect of gaining an advantage and momentarily hesitates, lowering his axe but maintaining his grip. The Justice League, recovering from the shock, prepares to re-engage, unsure of Loki's true intentions. C. Dialogue. Focus. Loki's desperate, yet calculating whisper. I know secrets of the 9 realms, power that would make your master's conquest trivial. Let me live, and I shall guide you to untold dominion. This reveals a critical piece of lore and shows Loki's character resolve and capacity for deception, even in dire straits. Deceit, suspense tactic, delayed revelation of Loki's full intentions and the true nature of his bargain. The high-stakes choice for Steppenwolf to consider an offer from an enemy. The internal conflict within the Justice League about whether to trust Loki or attack both him and Steppenwolf. E. Cliffhanger. Steppenwolf's eyes, burning with a mix of suspicion and greed, narrow on Loki before he can fully process Loki's offer. A massive energy pulse from the watchtower, coordinated by Cyborg, slams into Steppenwolf, momentarily staggering him and forcing him to drop Loki. The League launches a renewed, desperate counterattack, but Steppenwolf's rage is now focused on them all. Chapter 7. The Watchtower's Gambiter. Chapter Hook. A blinding lance of cerulean energy, precise and devastating, slammed into Steppenwolf. A defiant roar from the heavens, a desperate gamble for time, for survival. B. Core action conflict. The League seizes the momentary advantage granted by Cyborg's orbital strike. They launch a coordinated assault, leveraging their combined powers and Loki's reluctant magical aid. Loki creates illusions to distract parademons, while the League focuses on trying to contain Steppenwolf. Batman works furiously to establish a direct communication link to the Watchtower, where Cyborg and Flash are trying to coordinate a more powerful, sustained defense. They realize the only way to genuinely hurt Steppenwolf is by exploiting weaknesses in his dimensional anchors, something Loki's magic might understand. Steppenwolf, enraged, unleashes his full power, tearing through the city, making their position increasingly untenable. The countdown to total planetary subjugation feels imminent. C. Dialogue. Focus. Batman's terse command to Cyborg. Cyborg, find a weakness. Anything, he's anchored here, but he's not truly of here. This conveys tactical information and highlights the desperate, high-stakes search for a critical vulnerability. D. Suspense tactic. A ticking clock with the escalating destruction of Metropolis and Steppenwolf's growing rage. The delayed revelation of Steppenwolf's true weaknesses, requiring Loki's specialized knowledge. The high-stakes choice of trusting Loki with critical information. E. Cliffhanger. Just as Cyborg manages to identify a fluctuating energy signature around Steppenwolf that Loki confirms as a dimensional tether, a new, colossal boom tube opens directly above the Watchtower. From its swirling depths, a dark shadow emerges, immense and menacing, unmistakably the physical form of Darkseid himself, staring down at Earth with cold, unfeeling malice. The actual warworld begins to materialize behind him, blotting out the sun. The very air screamed, not with the wail of sirens, but with the silent terror of existence itself, buckling under the weight of something truly ancient and malevolent. Darkseid, a colossal silhouette against the nascent horror of the warworld, descended from the booming vortex, his eyes like twin furnaces, burning with an ice-cold, unfeeling malice. His arrival was not a declaration, it was an absolute statement, a cosmic period mark on the sentence of Earth's freedom. On the ground, the League froze. Even Steppenwolf, momentarily distracted, looked up, a flicker of something akin to awe in his brutish eyes before it was replaced by renewed, zealous ferocity. He roared, his voice thick with fanaticism, and slammed his axe down, sending a shockwave that tore through the already unstable street. "For Darkseid!" he shrieked, doubling his assault on the cornered heroes. "We have to stop him," Superman yelled, regaining his footing after a particularly brutal blow from Steppenwolf. His laser vision flared, striking Steppenwolf's chest, but the new god merely grunted, the energy rippling harmlessly across his armor. "The tether," Batman's voice crackled through their comms, urgent and strained. "Cyborg, what did you find?" "Loki, confirm the location of this dimensional anchor." From the Watchtower, a voice, strained but clear, answered. "Fluctuations around his left gauntlet. It's a focal point for his localized reality distortion, and it's reacting to high-frequency sonic resonance combined with magical destabilization." Cyborg was relaying data at an impossible speed, his systems pushed to their limits by Darkseid's colossal presence. Loki, who had been dropped unceremoniously, quickly regained his composure. He glared at Steppenwolf, a newfound icy fury replacing his usual theatricality. "The gauntlet! It's what channels his connection to Apocalypse, stabilizing his physical form in this realm. Disrupt it, and he will be inconvenienced, shall we say." He conjured an intricate runic diagram in the air, its emerald light pulsing. "But it will require a direct, focused strike, empowered by a unique magical signature. Mine, preferably. Yours lack the finesse. Cyborg, Flash, we need a distraction here, now," Wonder Woman commanded, parrying a sweeping axe blow that could have eviscerated a dozen men. She was buying time, but her shield was already dented, her resolve tested. Above them, the warworld was no longer just a shadow. It was a looming, jagged sphere of dark metal and pulsating energy, beginning its slow, inexorable descent. Its approach was heralded by a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through their very bones, a sound of absolute mechanical dread. The sky, once a brilliant blue, was now a sickly purple-black, a canvas for Apocalypse's terror. On it, Flash's voice came through, a burst of static, followed by a sudden, impossibly fast series of sonic booms echoing through the ruined streets. He was moving, generating a localized sonic vortex, targeting parademons and momentarily confusing Steppenwolf, drawing his attention for a precious few seconds. "Batman, the gauntlet!" Superman grunted, struggling to hold Steppenwolf back with a desperate grapple. "Get Loki there!" Batman, ever the pragmatist, had already launched himself towards Loki. "Focus your magic. We have one shot." He launched a grappling hook, pulling Loki with him towards Steppenwolf. It was a suicidal maneuver, a desperate gambit. As they closed in, Loki began chanting, his voice low and guttural, unlike any magic they had heard from him before. Emerald energy coiled around his hands, forming a shimmering spectral spear. "This is not a trick, mortal," he hissed to Batman, his eyes blazing. "This is necessity. Brace yourself." Steppenwolf, momentarily disoriented by Flash's sonic assault and Superman's relentless pressure, roared in frustration. He saw Batman and Loki closing in and swung his axe in a wide, devastating arc. But Wonder Woman, predicting his move, lunged, her lasso catching the shaft of the axe and redirecting its blow just enough to miss its lethal target. The impact still sent Batman and Loki sprawling. "Now!" Superman bellowed, using the distraction to deliver a thunderous uppercut, momentarily staggering Steppenwolf backward. Loki, seeing his window, gathered all his power. The spectral spear in his hand pulsed, growing brighter, more volatile. With a guttural cry, he hurled it, not at Steppenwolf's head, but directly at his left gauntlet. The spear struck with a crackle of pure magical force, meeting the dimensional tether with a shriek of tearing reality. A blinding flash erupted, and Steppenwolf let out a roar of agony that transcended mere pain. It was a sound of cosmic unraveling. His body flickered, his form destabilizing, shimmering like heat haze. The gauntlet fractured, the ornate metal visibly cracking, glowing with an angry, unstable purple light. His connection to Apocalypse, once absolute, was fraying. "It worked!" Cyborg exclaimed from orbit, his voice laced with relief. "His dimensional stability is dropping. He's being partially shunted!" Steppenwolf roared again, an incoherent bellow of rage and fear, his eyes burning with a new, wild intensity fixed on Loki. "You trickster! Darkseid will have your soul!" He lunged, no longer with tactical precision, but with the raw, desperate fury of a wounded animal. But his movements were slower now, less coherent. His axe, once an extension of his will, felt heavy, cumbersome. Superman and Wonder Woman, seeing the change, pressed their advantage. Superman delivered a barrage of super-speed blows, each one echoing with newfound impact against Steppenwolf's now vulnerable form. Wonder Woman, her sword glowing, found purchase on the fractured gauntlet, her Amazonian blade carving deeper into the destabilized alien metal. With a final shattering blow from Superman, Steppenwolf's gauntlet exploded in a shower of sparks and shimmering dying energy. The new god screamed, a sound of utter defeat, and his form began to dissolve, fragmenting into motes of dark energy, pulled back into the void. He was gone, a collective gasp of relief, quickly followed by a weary sigh, rippled through the League. But their victory was short-lived. Above them, Darkseid watched, unmoving, his gaze fixed on the broken city, on the receding dust of his fallen general. His booming voice, amplified by unknown means, reverberated across the planet, chilling them to the core. "A minor inconvenience," Darkseid declared, his voice a cosmic pronouncement. "Your petty resistance changes nothing. The harvest begins." And then, from the warworld, a barrage of energy beams, crimson and devastating, rained down, not on Metropolis, but on strategic points across the globe. Military bases, major cities, communication hubs. The invasion wasn't local, it was planetary. "He's targeting key infrastructure," Batman shouted, his tactical display lighting up with red alerts. "This isn't about conquest, it's about control. He wants to break global coordination. The warworld is fully materialized," Cyborg yelled, his voice now tinged with panic. "It's projecting a localized field around Earth, cutting off long-range communications, dampening FTL travel. We're isolated!" This was it. Total war. Superman flew upwards, a desperate blue streak against the darkening sky, directly towards the colossal figure of Darkseid. "We have to stop him here and now!" "Superman, wait!" Batman's warning was lost as the Kryptonian engaged. Darkseid merely raised a hand, and twin beams of Crimson Omega energy erupted from his eyes, striking Superman with devastating force. The Man of Steel cried out, an uncharacteristic sound of pain, and was hurled back, slamming into the watchtower with an impact that made the station groan under the strain. He slid down the curved hull, momentarily stunned, his suit smoking. This was a different kind of power. An absolute power. "He's too powerful for a frontal assault," Wonder Woman yelled, looking from the injured Superman to the unyielding form of Darkseid. We need a plan. Loki, his face pale, stared up at Darkseid. He's not merely powerful. He is an embodiment of conquest. You cannot simply defeat him in combat. Not as you are. He turned to Batman. Your watchtower. It holds capabilities beyond mere observation, does it not? Dimensional manipulation? Energy projection. Batman, ignoring the pain of his battered body, focused on Loki. We have limited dimensional tech. Experimental. What are you thinking? The dimensional tether that held Steppenwolf, Loki explained, his mind racing. Darkseid's presence here, a being of such magnitude, creates an even more profound anchor. If you could sever that anchor, even partially, it would not defeat him, but it might inconvenience him greatly. Or perhaps send him elsewhere. Elsewhere? Wonder Woman questioned, her brow furrowed. Back to Apocalypse, Loki clarified. Or better yet, to a dimension of absolute chaos, a realm where his Iron Will would struggle to impose itself, where his Omega effect might simply unravel. A sinister glint entered his eye. A realm I know well from certain unfortunate detours. Cyborg chimed in. A dimensional displacement field, focused through the Watchtower's main cannon? It's a long shot, but it might work if we can amplify it enough. But it would draw massive power, enough to cripple the Watchtower, maybe even shatter it. Then we have to buy you time, Batman said, his voice grim. He looked at Superman, now slowly pushing himself up, his eyes filled with determined fury. Clark, Diana, we need to keep him occupied. Keep him away from the Watchtower. Loki, you're with me. We need to boost the signal. And Flash, we need every civilian evacuated. Now. Flash's reply was a series of sonic booms as he raced through Metropolis, a red blur, guiding terrified people to the emergency shelters that Batman had secretly prepped years ago for just such an apocalypse. Darkseid will simply swat us away, Wonder Woman said, her hand on her sword. We need something more. Loki smiled, a genuine, albeit wicked smile. Perhaps, but an illusion, powerful enough to distract him, to make him believe a true threat has emerged that I can provide. Something to pique his cosmic curiosity. The battle for Earth shifted. Superman, fueled by an unbreakable will, rejoined the fray, drawing Darkseid's attention with a series of sonic punches that, while doing no damage, were relentless. Wonder Woman, her shield deflecting Omega beams, engaged with a fury that matched her ancestor gods, trying to keep Darkseid focused on them, away from the Watchtower. Batman and Loki raced back into the ravaged Watchtower. Inside, Cyborg was a whirlwind of data, his metallic fingers flying across holographic interfaces. The Watchtower groaned under the pressure of the Warworld's presence and Darkseid's power. We need a focused surge, Cyborg explained, his optical sensor glowing red. The energy required is unprecedented. It will blow every circuit. The Watchtower will be a derelict husk. A husk that saved a planet, Batman grunted. Loki, your magic. Can you focus the dimensional energy, create a pathway, a wormhole to this chaotic realm? Loki nodded, his face etched with intense concentration. I can, but it will require every ounce of my power, focused through your primitive but surprisingly robust technology. He placed his hands on the console, emerald energy snaking from his fingertips, merging with Cyborg's digital output. The Watchtower's systems hummed, then shrieked, glowing with an unholy green light. Outside, Darkseid was growing impatient. Superman and Wonder Woman, despite their heroism, were barely inconveniences. He merely toyed with them, his Omega beams effortlessly repelling their attacks. Cease your struggles, insects, he boomed, his voice resonating across the entire solar system. Your efforts are futile. Surrender, or be scourged. That's when Loki's grand illusion erupted. From the shattered remains of Metropolis, a figure began to rise. Not a single figure, but a composite towering entity, radiating pure, unbridled cosmic energy. It had the fiery aura of Surtur, the raw power of a celestial, the multi-limbed chaos of a dimensional horror, and the unmistakable, mocking features of a Loki at his most grandiloquent. It roared, a sound that shook the very foundations of the city, and unleashed a barrage of emerald energy that crashed against Darkseid's imposing form. Darkseid paused. His Omega beam ceased, his gaze, once dismissive, sharpened on the monstrous illusion. What is this? His voice, for the first time, held a flicker of surprise, a hint of curiosity. The entity was clearly an illusion, but its sheer scale, its raw power signature, amplified by Loki's full might channeled through the Watchtower, hinted at something more, something he hadn't accounted for, a fragment of a reality he hadn't yet subjugated. This was Loki's true genius, not brute force, but psychological warfare. He had created a cosmic mystery, a puzzle for Darkseid to solve, even if only for a few crucial moments. He's falling for it. Cyborg shouted, his voice hoarse. The dimensional displacement cannon is charging. But it's overloading! We're at critical! Batman looked at Loki, whose face was contorted with the effort of maintaining the vast illusion. How long? Seconds, Loki gasped, emerald energy pouring from him like sweat. The strain, it is immense. Below, Superman and Wonder Woman, seeing the illusion hold Darkseid's attention, continued their relentless, if futile, attacks, driving him subtly closer to the watchtower, to the very spot the cannon was targeting. Fire! Batman commanded, slamming his hand onto a manual override console. With a blinding flash, a colossal beam of shimmering, multi-dimensional energy erupted from the watchtower's primary cannon. It wasn't raw destructive power, but a focused, reality-tearing force, guided by Loki's magic and Cyborg's precise calculations. The beam struck Darkseid directly. Darkseid roared, a sound of cosmic fury. The illusion shattered, revealing only the broken city. He was hit, not by force, but by a sudden, jarring displacement. His form flickered, distorting, just as Steppenwolf's had, but on a far grander, more terrifying scale. The Omega beams flared wildly, uncontrolled, striking the warworld, which shimmered and destabilized under the accidental assault. The dimensional anchor is compromised, Cyborg shouted, his systems failing around him. He's being pulled. The other dimension is pulling him, Darkseid fought back, unleashing a torrent of Omega energy, aiming not at the heroes, but at the watchtower itself. He understood. This was the source. The watchtower buckled. Explosions rocked the station as Darkseid's pure rage found its mark. Batman shielded Loki and Cyborg as panels exploded, showering them with sparks. But it was too late. The dimensional displacement had taken hold. Darkseid's form twisted and convulsed, being stretched and pulled into the swirling vortex of the new portal that had erupted around him. He screamed a name that echoed across the galaxy. Darkseid is! A desperate affirmation of his own existence as he was torn from this reality. With a final, shattering crack of space-time, Darkseid was gone. The portal snapped shut. Silence. The warworld, destabilized by Darkseid's uncontrolled Omega beams, and now without its master's direct will, began to flicker. Its dark metal shimmered, the imposing structure fading in and out of existence. Then slowly, agonizingly, it began to unravel, disintegrating into a shower of purple-black dust that evaporated into the void. The threat was gone. Superman and Wonder Woman, exhausted but triumphant, hovered over the ravaged Earth. Below them, Metropolis was a ruin, but it was still there, still standing. Inside the watchtower, now a crippled, burning wreck, Batman surveyed the damage. Cyborg's metallic body was sparking, his optical sensors flickering. Loki was slumped against a console, pale and drained, his green garments tattered, his helmet askew, but a faint, knowing smirk played on his lips. You really did it, Batman said, his voice a low rumble, devoid of emotion but laced with an unspoken respect. Loki chuckled weakly. I told you, I know secrets of chaos. Even Darkseid can be displaced if one applies the right pressure to the right dimensional vulnerability. He struggled to sit up. Though I admit, the effort nearly unraveled me as well. And I believe I owe you a new flying fortress. This one is quite ruined. Cyborg managed a weak digital chuckle. A small price to pay. Flash reports primary civilian evacuation complete, Batman relayed. Casualties minimal considering the scale of the attack. Metropolis is severely damaged, but the world survives. He turned to Loki. What now, trickster god? You've earned a temporary reprieve, but you're still a refugee and a potential threat. Loki sighed. A weary god who had just pulled off the greatest trick of his life. A temporary reprieve, you say? How kind. My bargain with Steppenwolf failed. My path home is still obscured. And I imagine the repercussions of helping avert apocalypse will be entertainingly complex when news reaches the other realms. Perhaps I shall linger. He looked at the shattered console, then back at Batman. Unless you intend to imprison me, Batman paused, his gaze assessing. Loki had saved them. He had been an enemy, then an uneasy ally, then a crucial, indispensable player in saving the planet. His motivations were always self-serving, But this time, his self-preservation had aligned with their need for survival. "For now," Batman said, his voice firm, "we rebuild, and we watch you closely." It wasn't an offer of freedom, but it wasn't imprisonment either. It was a truce, born of mutual necessity and an understanding of the precarious balance of power. Loki nodded, a flicker of something almost like respect in his emerald eyes. "Fair enough, Caped Crusader. I rather enjoyed the chaos, I must admit. And the look on Darkseid's face priceless." He managed a full, if still weak, grin. "Perhaps this Midgard has more potential for entertainment than I initially thought." Outside, the first rays of the true sun broke through the dissipating clouds, illuminating a world scarred but not broken. The war world was gone. Darkseid was gone. The Justice League, battered but triumphant, began the long, arduous task of picking up the pieces. And amidst them, an accidental deity, a god of mischief and lies, found himself, for the first time in a long time, with an unexpected purpose and a new, bewildering realm to explore. The universe had delivered Loki to Earth, and in doing so, had inadvertently forged a most unlikely, most dangerous, and most certainly most entertaining new alliance. The cosmic game had merely found a new board, and Loki, the master player, was ready for his next move.